Hello, everyone. How are you all? Welcome to the HockeyBuzzCast.
Yes,
Now with
this is a date that will live in infamy, right, Russ?
right, isn't this somebody's birthday too? I mean, I know it's somebody's birthday,
I
but
don't know. I mean, there's somebody in the world, yeah. But
oh yeah, I'm gonna go off the other my other internet connection because this one looks
the
like
date we basically like to forget, but you know.
Well, it's funny
yeah.
because I generated some commentary on Twitter this morning when I said, if you want to watch a historical movie about Pearl Harbor, don't watch that piece of crap by Michael Bay with Ben Affleck from about 10 years ago. There's a classic movie called Tora, 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 it's a great movie, and it's also historically accurate about what happened before Pearl Harbor. So watch that, and don't watch. The other thing is the Pearl Harbor movie, the Ben Affleck movie. It's like the first generation of CGI, and it's so bad compared to what is going on now. It's like, they have the bomb going from the plane down, like basically going down the Arizona smokestack, and it's just so bad. But the movie Tora, 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 they actually used the planes. They actually had pilots flying, facsimiles of the Japanese and American planes. So it was
Wow.
I saw that as a kid. I remember I saw that in the movie theater, actually.
It's pretty cool. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
no, it was. I mean, it was, and the unusual thing about that movie was it was a joint Japanese American production.
Huh.
They had a Japanese director directing the Japanese portions of it, an American director directing the
Well,
American.
here's the thing. See, now I don't know if this was the exact same time, but I kind of remember. You're like uncovering memories here now that I'm looking at 2X, which is scary.
I know. Twice as much fun. For sure.
Watching that movie, I swear, is when I saw the preview rather, for Krakatoa, which was also, I think, a Japanese movie, but it made me laugh as a kid, and it still makes me chuckle because it was a bad thing that happened. It was a volcano eruption. A lot of people died. But the preview was so bad. It was like Krakatoa, east of Java. And I just like I was probably like, I don't know, 10 years old. And I'm thinking, where the hell is Java? Like, I didn't get any of it, but I laugh every time. I probably should.
And it was like a Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's some great. I'm a big fan of Mystery Science Theater, which is a really good show. And actually, the Mystery Science Theater guys they crowdfunded to do like 5 more episodes. It's pretty funny. So they're going to do.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're really it's one. I mean, it's obviously one of the better shows out there for people who are just sarcastic, because it's my life. Like, we basically, in my world, I Mystery Science Theater everything that happens. So that is perfect for us, and a lot of people do that as well. So. But yeah, it's funny. They just had a big Godzilla thing on Mystery Science Theater the other night, which was cracking me up just to completely.
I love those movies. I used to subscribe to the Monster Times, which was a magazine.
Yeah. Oh, so you were an Ultraman person then, right? You were.
No, you know what? I didn't become an Ultraman person until way after, and they made the video game. I only found out about Ultraman when the 3DO system, which I was selling as a manager, came out with the Ultraman game, and I was watching the promo for it. And I'm like, what the hell is this campy show? And then someone explained it to me and turned me on to the show, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I'm a big King Kong guy over Godzilla, but I like Rodan. And I think Rodan is the one that sort of got the short end of the stick most of the time.
Yes, definitely. No question about it. That's really funny. Oh man, I lived for Ultraman as a kid.
Rodan was the Dale Howard-Chuck of monsters.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fair.
That's a good way of putting it. What a great tie-in, Mike.
But King Kong, they never showed in the right way. Like, King Kong could clearly destroy Godzilla most days, but the Japanese version sort of had King Kong looking feeble. And I don't know if that was because he was an American sort of creation or not. Didn't you get that feeling, like with the eyes and stuff?
The King Kong in the Japanese movies was like, it looked like he belonged on Gorillas of the Mist with Sigourney Weaver.
I agree with that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I agree with that. So if you guys haven't noticed behind, we have 2 clocks today, just because one clock was sent to us by one of Mike's favorite people.
Alan Walsh?
No.
Cousin Eddie?
He sent something else, but I'm not going to open it.
Cousin Eddie? No.
My puck crazed model out in a good friend of ours, but good friend of
your wife.
If you follow her on Twitter at my puck crazed model, Mike's future wife. Yes. She's out in Red Deer, she's originally from Red Deer. I don't know where she's from now, but she knows that we have.
No, you're always from Red Deer.
You're always from Red Deer, yeah.
She's from parts unknown now. Like
I think she might be in New York or Toronto.
I'm close to both of them.
Both are close to you, Mike. Yeah, especially Toronto. So she knows my wife and I are big, video game, our old arcade machine fans. We collect them and rebuild them. So she sent me this cool Pac-Man clock. So I just
very nice.
So, and I tried really hard to sync the two of these clocks, and as you see, they're not quite right. I sat there, waiting and waiting and waiting. So.
By the way, I got nothing, and I do this show too.
No, this wasn't for the show. It was a set to me as a gift, but she does watch the show on occasion.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, clearly I'm a contributor here, and I got nothing.
That's true.
Then she has to be flattered that I'm.
Oh, I'm sure she's flattered or something. Yeah,
or something. Yes.
More like something. More like
no. She knows. We actually have talked about it because we joked about it before, Mike. Because I said, Mike on the show, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've heard you guys say that." So. She is, but she is, I think, currently entangled with somebody else. Sorry, Mike, but maybe that could always change.
Of course,
you never know. So anyway, let's move on to another topic. Let's talk about hockey. We know it's December 7th. We've already said that, so it's Wednesday. Here we go. I don't have my bell. Sorry, Mike. What the hell? Where's my bell?
Oh, don't worry about the bell.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I know.
Just ping it with your hand.
It's the principle of the matter. What happens if I hit that bell behind me with this stick? What do you think will happen?
You'll be suspended for 20 games.
Right, at least. Here we go. It's too close to me. Doesn't work at all. That's what happened.
Why did I know that was going to happen?
This is clearly a great scientific show.
Who couldn't have seen that coming, right?
What would happen if I hit over my glass of iced tea? I don't know.
And on cue, just before the introduction, Ty Anderson joins the show.
Hello, Ty.
But he's muted.
You're muted, Ty.
Unmute yourself, man. Be proud. Speak loud. No, we still can't hear you.
Log off, log back on.
Log out, log back on. That's the story of life, Man, this has been a sucky year. So I would like to log off and log.
I hear that in my sleep now. I really do.
I know. I would love to log off and log back on in a lot of things. But you can in the show. It does seem to make everything better. In life, not so much. It's not the logging off; it's the logging back on. That's tough. I'm good at logging off. I can log off anytime.
That's great.
But let's see what happens when Ty gets back. I'm sorry for the disaster behind me. We also have a little sponsor for the show today in Amazon, and they are so I have my Amazon device here. So at some point we can ask it questions. I won't say its name because it'll immediately respond to me. But but you know the name of it's Alexa.
Downeaster,
No, don't say that. So yes. So anyway, but if I said
it's a bad Billy Joel song.
If I said, Alexa, what was the Flyers score last night?
Last night the Flyers beat the Panthers 3-2 in overtime. They'll play tomorrow at 7 p.m. in Philadelphia against the Oilers.
Just like that, okay. Mike was eliminated from the show. All right. No, it's not Mexico. It's these things that are destroying our economy. That'll be a good thing. That's a good thing to tell them as a sponsor. All right, here we go. So, ready? I'm going to start the show.
Start the show and then bring in Ty.
Ty will find his way. I'm sure. I'm sure he knows something that we don't. Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, December 7th, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. And you're watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we, I need to get more consistently on. It's the show that I've had lots of crazy stuff going on. Some of it's crazy family stuff, some of it's crazy business stuff. But I hopefully, with the exception of this Friday, will be on all of next week. So I'm excited about that. But let's start into the show. And I think we have to start with the Philadelphia Flyers tonight, just today, because we do have a team that last night, won their 6th game in a row for the first time since 2011. That's 6 in a row. And they are, and not only that, but Wayne Simmons is just taken off. He's now 15 goals scored. And I've been saying it for a while, and we've all been saying for a while, that Wayne Simmons is on the verge of becoming that kind of guy who Team Canada could really use in the in the future. And I think that what we're looking at now is Simmons again pushing himself forward into that conversation. I mean, he is that good of a scorer. He's always been one of the best players along the boards. So yeah, so you were there last night, weren't you, Russ?
I was.
I was not, but yeah. So the Flyers, again, they won in overtime, which has happened a couple times in the streak. So it's not been an incredibly dominant streak. This is, I think, their 3 of 6 have been won in overtime.
Yeah, you can't call it dominant when you're giving the other team points. That's the one thing that right now, this point of the season, we're all sort of willing to wash over. But in the second half of the season, after the All-Star break, if they keep winning games this way, they'll be hemorrhaging points to other teams that are chasing them in the standings, and that's not successful. Now, in this NHL right now, the way they're winning is successful, right? So they've won 6. They're in the playoff. They're in the playoff picture right now. They're in it, and there are other teams on the outside looking in. I think they're playing really well. I think Provorov has played great.
Yeah.
Is it working?
We got you.
Okay.
Is it working? All right.
It is working.
There
Congratulations.
we go. There we go. Love it. Finally.
Excellent. Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks.
I was going to say, I think Provorov's playing great. I think the Panthers played a little better. Mason was unbelievable. But I will say, I mean, I think if I looked at the real great scoring chances, I think Mason probably stopped 10 to 15 great ones. I think a lot of those were to the outside, one-offs. Mason did cover up a lot of stuff, which was good for his part. The real interesting part of this game, though, was I still don't get the feeling Florida's any better. They're just playing better in today's NHL by grabbing a point here and a point there. But that's not going to get them back in the playoff hunt.
No. And I watched a little bit of that game. I was trying to watch most of the games yesterday. And, I've seen James Reimer play for the majority of his career. I know he played really well as a backup with San Jose last year. But the feeling that I had for most of the time in Toronto is just reemphasized with what he's doing in Florida right now. Florida is operating under, I think, they just don't know what they're doing if they think that James Reimer is going to be able to take over for Roberto Luongo as the number 1 goaltender if Luongo slips in the next year or two. He's a good goaltender. He's not a number 1 goaltender. And I didn't think he played particularly well last night. And that's the thing. He can play well for a week or so, and then he will make a couple catastrophic errors that will cost your team games. So, he's a good backup, and he will serve that. He'll play 30, 35 games and be able to handle that with Florida. But once Luongo retires or maybe takes a back seat, if Reimer's the number 1, the answer, they're in trouble.
The one thing I could tell you, I had a decent conversation after the game, an exclusive with Aaron Ekblad, and what I took from that was even that point, off a back-to-back, off a game that Mason played great, he still said it wasn't good enough. I kind of feel bad in the sense that I think the bar has just been set way too high for this team this season, and you could almost see it on the players' faces like, we've got to do better. We've got to do better. And it's like, well, it wasn't like you lost, and you were coming off a back-to-back after a tough game against the Bruins, and at least you did get that point. They had plenty of chances to win. Mason did sort of steal it, if you want to say that. They did, finally say that after a while. But I could tell that there's an awful lot of pressure on this team.
Yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Gerard Gallant was really popular in that room. I mean, he was, and they feel responsible for it, and this is what often happens, with the team. So they really feel like, geez, we got that guy fired, and now we can't get anything right. And yeah, there's no question that that's happening there. Or
we can go to the true side of things.
Okay.
Admit that this defense is pretty terrible. This defense is
bad. I mean, we've already.
But I mean, I'm watching these guys on Monday night. In Boston. I mean, they were getting picked apart by the Bruins' 3rd and 4th line, which right now is not anything necessarily special because it's a lot of call-ups and guys playing out of position and things like that. but they were getting hemmed in their own zone for extended stretches there. And I just don't think you've seen the impact of a Yandel or of a Demers that you sort of expected. And I think that's sort of, it's showing right now. I mean, we can say all we want about guys, you know, like Branson and Dmitry Kulikov. I mean, maybe they weren't perfect, but I think there was familiarity and there was a fit there for sure. I don't know if they had necessarily found that yet with the guys they brought in to replace those talents.
And I mean, Pasternak walked through their defense like they were a bunch of pylons. But you know, look at the Eastern Conference right now. We're going to talk about some other games.
Well, you know, before we talk about the other games, I did want to add one thing. Just before I got into the room, apparently basically the one traveling Florida beat writer, the main guy, wanted to talk to Jaromir Jagr, and he was sort of off to the side of where McKenzie, the captain, was, and was sort of ignoring everybody and just into his equipment. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
He's always the last guy that gets the equipment picked up. He has it spread all over the floor, and the equipment guys are always scared to touch it. And
oh yeah, Jagr, it's fascinating. It's been that way forever. I mean, it's not. And
so, you know, so I know that what that's like, but I don't think I've seen a quote from him since Gallant got fired. And
that's
so I don't know how he feels.
That's really interesting because he was a big. I mean, I think I always felt like he went there because of Peter Luukko. To be honest, like I felt like that Peter Luukko and was in Philadelphia when Jagr was there, and Peter was big in getting Jagr to come to Philly, and then he was part of the group that wanted Jagr to stay in Philly, and then when Luukko went away, he was really excited to get Jagr into Florida, and I think Luukko. You know, I don't know how much power Peter Luukko has right now.
I mean, I saw him at the candy bar. He was filling up with, you know, Reese's Pieces just like me. But beyond that, I don't know.
That's a normal thing. But I don't know what he has. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen him last night too. You get the sense that, you know, Talon's been moved upstairs. Gallant's gone. Luukko. There was this.
Yeah, I didn't see Dale Talon, and you normally would see Dale Talon on a road trip.
He's not. He hasn't been. And the weird thing about that is what Talon loves to do. Like Talon loves to travel, loves to be there. So it's a real strange situation how this is all played out. And I feel like that group of Talon, Luukko, and Gallant have all been minimized, you know, and Jagr was in that group. I mean, Jagr is part of that group.
He gets attached to coaches. He loved Tom Rennie with the Rangers as an example. And I have a feeling he liked Gallant. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I haven't heard a quote from him.
I knew that. I mean, I talked to people about that. I can confirm that that's true.
Okay.
I mean, Gallant was a contemporary. Gallant played when he played. So, but in relation to what you were talking about in terms of the team acting like they're really, you know, under pressure and feeling it, you look at the Eastern Conference standings right now, and right now Washington is the eighth, is the second wild card at 31 points.
Yeah,
you've got from New Jersey and Tampa at 30, going down to the bottom of the conference with Toronto, the Islanders, and Carolina at 25 points. The entire conference is within 5 to 6 points of the wild card.
Yeah.
So right now, I mean, even though Florida is struggling, they're 3 points out of a wild card spot. Things are very tight, and we're almost 30 games into the regular season.
You're right, and you know what you have to look at with this conference more than anything else is the games played, which is all over the map. Like there are teams, like the Flyers have played 4 more games than the Blue Jackets already. You know that's crazy. I mean, to think about, you know, they're 1 point behind the Blue Jackets. So both those teams have, you know, the Blue Jackets have 15 wins, the Flyers have 15 wins. They both have 4 overtime losses, or the Flyers have 3 and they have 4. But the Blue Jackets have 5 losses. The Flyers have 10. You know, it's crazy when you look at this. You're like, okay, so basically those games at hand are all losses. And so the Blue Jackets with 34 points in 24 games played are looking really good. I mean, they're obviously in a great spot right now. And I think I heard the second leading scoring team in the league or something like that right now in the NHL, right? So that's and then Boston, you know, who everybody, you know, always says is dead in the water, right? Ty is like, you know, they're in the playoffs right now. They're 15-10-1. So they've got 2 less games played than the Flyers, so they're at 31 points as well. So everybody,
a big reason, and we'll see what Ty says. I think a big reason for Boston is I've noticed that Rask has sort of turned back into Tuukka Rask. Like I thought last year he was a bit up and down, but this year, anytime I've seen him, he's been really, really solid again.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the biggest thing. Also, I mean, Pastrnak sort of I think that Marchand, Bergeron, Pastrnak line might be the best in the NHL by the end of the year. I just think they dominate the puck. You have two strong possession guys with Bergeron and Marchand, and you add a real scorer to that line, which that line has really never had. I think they had Sagan for a year and a half on that line, but he's a center. He was a center playing out of position, and so it never really had the same impact that a natural scoring winger like Pastrnak has had for that group. So that's really sort of changed the whole dynamic of that team. I think Backes is a shot of life to that team as well. Just another voice in that room. You got to think about this. With the Bruins, they've had the same leaders for a very long time. Yeah. You know, sometimes it's nice to get a new voice in there, a louder voice, an experienced voice, and I think Backes has done that. The production with Backes has been a little hit and miss here, but he's still on pace for about 20 goals, 50 points around there, which is what you sort of expected out of him, if you will. So I think that all those things are making a big difference, as well as, you know, the defense has really sort of rebounded from a year ago, whether it's tweaks to the system or it's just guys knowing one another a bit better than they did a year ago. It's making a huge difference for this team. And I wrote about this the other day, is they're winning 1-goal games, which is something that they weren't doing for the last 2 seasons. Right. And the stats sort of back up. If you win 1-goal games, you're going to make the playoffs. That's just how that sort of works out. Luck has to do with that, of course. You know, I look at a team like Calgary the year they made the playoffs. They were winning 1-goal games and stealing games like there's no tomorrow. So that's definitely a factor. But I think overall, it's Tuukka Rask and David Pastrnak.
Yeah, and Anaheim is another one that 1-goal games. You know, these teams have won 1-goal games and made the playoffs because of it.
But the standings in the East can be a little misleading. I mean, I was going to write about this today in regards to Toronto, because for all the improvements that have happened with the Leafs this year, they're tied for last in the conference and tied for, I think it's 26th in the NHL. You know, so there's been progress, but they're still one of the bottom teams. But they've only played 24 games like Columbus. Yeah. They're playing 6 of their next 7 at Air Canada Center. But after that, they're gone for almost a month because of the World Junior. They play 8 of 10 on the road. So after like the middle of January, you know, Mike Babcock and Lou Lamoriello will know whether this team is within striking distance of a playoff spot or should bottom out again and get a top 5 pick. So
your media is confused, though, because their media still thinks they're in the playoff hunt. They are. Even today I heard them say, we're only 6 points out. And I'm thinking, but you're in last place.
Well, no, Russ, apparently, and I wasn't there, of course, but apparently their media was asking a bunch of the Leaf players, like, basically, how does it feel to be in last place? So, yes, they're close. Everybody's close in the East, but they're tied for last. So,
in real 500 terms, they're 4 games under 500. That's how I look at it, because that's the thing that you don't really get. You know, if you combine the overtime losses and the losses, they're 4 games under 500.
You have to do math. It's a shame.
But they are 8-3 at home. I mean, they are a very good team in Toronto. So, I mean, the thing about them, that's what's fun to watch with that team at home. So that road difference, and the fascinating thing about their road record is they're 2-6-5 on the road. So that's 5 overtime losses on the road. You can look at that a lot of different ways, right? You can look at that like, okay, you got to get one of those wins, but you know, really, I look at it like you're getting a point out of those games, and that's
3 shootout losses and 2 overtime losses.
Yeah, I mean that's impressive, and to get
not when you factor in they've blown a 4-0 lead, a 2-goal lead with 3 minutes left to go in the third period. You know, they've blown a 3-0 lead in the first period. In New Jersey. They've blown leads. Now. Their problem is, when they score on the road, they give up more goals. When they don't score on the road, they lose by a goal. So the common denominator is they're losing on the road. And
with that defense, they're not going to be a playoff team. But I just sort of wish – see, and this is where I think next year is the year that the media does start to turn, because they do seem to be tiring of the, hey, we're not, ready yet.
Russ, unless they win. Unless they go out – and this is why this summer, and it's going to be very important this summer – if they go out and make a trade for a defenseman, if they go out and sign a free agent, if they consciously try to improve their blue line and they play well and they're a playoff team, I don't think there's going to be criticism from the media. If it's year 3 of the rebuild and they're still wallowing in 23rd place, then they're justified in criticizing the organization.
I don't know if they're justified. I mean, I think we've all underestimated how long it takes to rebuild in the NHL now. It's different than a lot of other sports. Like the NFL has shown that you really have to do it through the draft. So the NFL is like the worst as far as trying to rebuild quickly.
Right.
Major League Baseball, because of the way free agency is, you can rebuild quickly. 2-3 years, you can. I mean, look at the Red Sox. They were bad. They're good again. I mean, it just, it didn't take long for them to bounce back because they have a lot of money. But in the NHL, I don't have a number yet because the whole league has changed. So I used to be able to say, 3 to 5 years, and you could be a total rebuild, and you're ready, and you could be contending. I really don't have a number anymore. I don't know if you guys do either, but
no. And I think about this a lot. I mean, this is something because I love this kind of stuff. I think about the fact that I believe that we have two different kinds of rebuilds that we've seen in the NHL. One where you have teams that are just literally doing the rebuild that Toronto did. When that's rare, the teams break it down. Buffalo did it. I guess you could say Florida did it. And the team they build. It's the slow rebuild to put together a team that will be competitive for several years in a row, versus the let's be competitive rebuild where and a lot of teams are doing that are stuck in the 500 area.
Well, I heard one analysis of teams that are rebuilding like say Edmonton and Toronto are, and the fact that I can't remember who it was that was saying this, but they were saying you have to win a Stanley Cup or be competitive to win a Stanley Cup while some of your key young players are on their entry-level deals.
Yeah.
And in this instance, that means Marner and Matthews, the two more years, they'll be on their entry-level deals before they start to make big money. So there's that window where they're being paid $925,000 plus bonuses, and you can fill in spots with other players who are making money, but eventually you're going to have to pay those guys. And that happened with Anaheim, with Getzlaf and Perry, they were on their entry-level deals. It happened with Kane and Taves in 2010, they were on their entry-level deals. So
but the difference is
it's changed now, Mike, and that's what I'm saying. It hasn't happened now since the game has gotten faster, since there's less older players in the league. So that's what I'm saying. Now I don't know what the standard is. I'll be honest.
The difference is I don't think you need your best players to be on their entry level deals. I think you need your second and third.
A lot of them.
And I think that Marner and Austin Matthews, the Leafs aren't going to be a Stanley Cup contender in their entry level contracts. They're in all likelihood. I mean, they could be a playoff team, but they're not going to be an entry. They're not going to be a Stanley Cup contender. So I think, but they can. It's like the other guys that come along. It's like the Claude Giroux when the Flyers were in 2010. Where he was like a good player, but like a second line player.
I think in this league you need a mix. You need a mix because you look at like a team like Boston beginning in 2007, Philly beginning in 2007. These are teams that they brought in guys like Boston brought in Savard and Chara. Philly brought in Briere and eventually brought in Pronger. That helped bridge the gap between the guys that they had that were already there that were young. Boston was Priest Bergeron, David Krejci, guys like that. Philly was Jeff Carter and Mike Richards. And then you hit that point where you become so competitive that you sort of naturally morph into a legitimate contender. Not every team's going to have a superstar, but if you have some guys that are in their prime, some players that are in their mid to late 20s, and some young kids,
it's a mix.
Combine this with like a veteran goalie, I find, usually like an older goalie, you're going to have a competitive bunch.
But now it's hard to get those guys, Ty. Yeah. Like, next summer, there's not going to be a lot of those guys available. And at the trading deadline, you might have 3 or 4 of those guys available. But like even a guy like Pronger, if he were in the league now, you wouldn't want to acquire him. It would be like acquiring Chara now at the deadline. He's a little past it, a little slow for what we're.
Not when the Flyers got him though. When the Flyers got him, he was still very much in his prime.
No, I know that for them. For then he was, but if he were
That's
playing,
what I'm talking about. I'm not saying acquiring a 40-year-old. I'm saying acquiring a guy back then.
Yeah,
what
no,
I'm
I think
saying
that's
is
a big difference.
Even acquiring a 35-year-old now who could even still skate in this league, you're worried about him if you have 2 years on his deal, what he can do after that. That's what I'm saying. Guys just fall off quickly now.
But to my point from before, I mean, with the Bruins in 2011, Sagan was in his first year, and Marchand I think was on his entry level deal. So you have to have not in terms of just a range of having guys in their prime, some grizzled veterans, the age spread out throughout the lineup. I think you also, for cap purposes, you need those guys who are on their first contracts so you can afford those other guys.
Yeah, and I think last year what we saw with the Sharks was that. I thought the Sharks were a good balance last year of, and they had some guys who were on their rookie contracts still. They weren't big contributors, but Donskoy and players like that were important to them, right? So
So
but
what is it? 3 years, 5 years? I mean, Edmonton.
yeah, you need it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Edmonton doesn't know the number. I mean,
right. And there is no number. I think the issue is, are you going to rebuild quickly or you're going to rebuild to try to get to 500 and be competitive? And if you've got the goalie, like Ty said, you can do that. You can, because if you got the goalie, you can stay in every game. And if you can stay in every game, you're going to get enough ties and overtime win. You're going to get yourself in the playoffs, and then who knows what happens, right? There's that one way.
Scorched earth rebuild is meaningless. It actually, I think it hurts your franchise more than it helps in this sport.
It does.
Basketball, it works. Hockey doesn't work, because I think you can't have guys get their heads kicked in for 3 to 4 years, which I think is what happened with the Oilers. And the only reason the Oilers aren't still losing is because they have Connor McDavid. So yeah, they sucked enough for 6 years to get the guy, and that's great. That's wonderful. But it's still, it's like, don't you want to have some playoff experience?
Right. They don't.
And the only fringe benefit of finishing dead last or winning the lottery in 2 of the 4 years that they did pick first overall, they gave one away for nothing in Yakupov to St. Louis, and they got robbed in a trade with New Jersey for Adam Larson, who I think is just a slightly above average defenseman. I still think.
Okay, and I think you guys have correctly identified the 2 things I've noticed, but then what do we call New Jersey? I don't know what you call New Jersey. They're winning. They do have a great goalie. They don't have a lot of offense. They have a decent defense. It's not the best defense. They don't have a lot of scoring.
It's a hodgepodge.
They do have a mix.
Yeah, it's a hodgepodge, Russ, because Ray Shero goes.
But it's working. That's the crazy part.
Ray Shero goes out and gets Kyle Palmieri for pennies on the dollar in a trade. And he's played well. They draft Zacha, I think 6th overall. They get Taylor Hall for a song. So they're sort of piecing it together, and they have what every team that needs to make the playoffs has, a goaltender that they can depend on. Corey Snyder is the most important player in that team, because no matter how bad or how many holes there are on defense, and if Hall is out for a month, they can still win games because Corey Snyder can carry them on his back.
Right. They're still undefeated at home, which is crazy.
Go ahead, Ty.
No, I was going to say, I mean, like, New Jersey's, they're one of these teams, and I think I would honestly, like, I know this sounds crazy, I would lump Carolina in this, in the sense where they're a better team than we give them credit for. The problem is that they play in a ridiculous division where everyone is win now, win now, win now. Right. You have, I think it's 4 out of those 8 teams you would classify as win now, and a 6th one, not too far behind.
Yeah.
So these teams, they're sort of stuck in this middle here where they're almost forced to be competitive, but there's a plus and a minus set. The minus is that you don't necessarily reap the rewards right away, but your young players, when you bring them in, they're immediately immersed into a competitive, ultra-competitive division where they get better a lot quicker than a team like Edmonton, I think, does when you're losing for so long. So it's weird. And New Jersey also, we have to keep in mind, they're a budget team as well. They're much like Ottawa in the sense they don't necessarily spend like crazy anymore. I think the whole Kovalchuk thing may have burned them. I don't know, though. And then you have, but I think they're better than we give them credit for. But the way they're doing it is sort of under the radar, I think, in a lot of ways.
I mean, they have 3 games in hand on Philly. They're only 3 points back. Like, it's just what they're doing is amazing. But I think it also, when you look at it and try and break it down, you can't figure it out.
But they've started to, it's such a long season, and there's New Jersey started to wither a little bit. Like they had a great win
the other day when I was listening to them. Maybe
I know, but they're 3-4-3 in their last 10. So that's not terrible. It's right. Well, but again, that's 4 games under 500 in your last 10. Really,
I mean, their weak area, like some of the team. I mean, right now you've got, of those bottom teams in the East, the only one that is strong on the blue line is Carolina. Or the Islanders, you could say that as well, but they've had some injury problems. Buffalo is so decimated with injuries on their blue line right now. They're playing guys like Eric Bergdorfer, who's played, I think, 1,000 games in the ECHL and played his first NHL game this week. The Devils, after the Larson trade, I mean, really their defense is their weak spot. Toronto, we know that they basically have 2 NHL defensemen and the rest of them are borderline. So that's the difference between teams that are competing for a playoff spot and not competing for a playoff spot. It's depth on the blue line and the ability to score. And the teams that are not realistically, I think, playoff teams are going to have a problem because good luck trying to get defensemen before the trade deadline.
Yeah, no. I mean, there aren't that many great teams in the NHL right now. There's a few of them, but really a lot of them are in the same boat. And the best way I've always thought to find that out, to say who are the great teams, is to look at the goal differential columns, because the goal differential columns are always very telling. We can look at for example, Columbus is +24, the Rangers are +28, Montreal's +7, Ottawa's -3 in second place. The Flyers are +3.
The Rangers are slipping lately, though. Like that game against the Islanders, I thought they should have won that game. Like before it started 5-2, they lost 4-2, and the Islanders really took it to them physically. They figured out how to slow down the Rangers. Plus, Nash is out, and they have some other injuries too. But Lundqvist didn't play great. That was a game where I agreed with the fan base that he didn't play great. That was a big win for the Islanders. I don't know how much it'll fuel them, because Halak always plays the Rangers great, and Dan did warn me on that about the show yesterday, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but I just didn't know if the Islanders could score that many goals against the Rangers, and they did. So it does show you that even with the dominance that the Rangers showed early, they're slipping too.
Here's the crazy thing about the Devils, though, and I think what plays into it is that they are, like you're saying, the Islanders always play the Rangers tough, so that's always going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
Devils always play the Islanders, Flyers, and Rangers tough. So even when they're a bad team, they've got 3 teams that they're playing in their division all the time that they battle really hard against. And you can put the Penguins in there too. They play the Penguins tough too. So, that is something that they seem to still have, a little bit of mystical hold on those teams at times, where they play those teams, and no matter how bad or how good those teams are, the Devils will give them fits. And that's just, it's hung around.
So basically the East is going to beat up on the West and like the South this year. Is that what's going to happen?
Well, the entire Western Conference is like the Norris division back in the day. It's like, the fourth place team in the Norris had like 50 points, but they still made the playoffs. But no, right now the Rangers, they're starting to get a taste of the injuries. You saw what happened last night. VC's injured. Nash is injured. They've already lost Buchnevich. Zibanejad is out probably another month or 6 weeks at least. So, they've come down to earth a little bit because they're starting to feel the injury pinch.
Yeah, what's funny is it's a total flip these last 2 years, I think, where the Western Conference, you look at it, and the Western Conference a few years ago was like, look at this division, it's insane.
Yeah.
And now you look at it, it's kind of mediocre. You look at the way Chicago has played all year, and I think they've been inconsistent. They haven't been the Chicago Blackhawks that we knew. I think everything's starting to take its toll on them. They're still the best team in the conference.
Oh yeah, by far.
Which is crazy to me because they haven't looked very good at all this year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting to watch that team.
Well,
Elsewhere, I think that we thought that Pacific Division was going to be a lot better, and I do wonder if maybe we thought they were going to be better, but maybe we undersold the fact that everyone is so good in that division that it's creating this sort of this division-wide parity here where these teams are basically all 500 for the most part.
Yeah.
The funny thing is the Blackhawks have been without Taves for a couple weeks, probably another week before he gets back in the lineup. So the fact that they've been able to maintain that high level is impressive. Marian Hossa had a couple goals last night. They're finding ways to win games without Taves, which is, he's one of the best players in the league. But looking at the Pacific, right now, I watched the Edmonton-Buffalo game. Maybe we talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
You cannot shake the impression that that's a one-man team in Edmonton right now. Their defense has fallen back big time. McDavid didn't even have a great game last night in Buffalo, and he still had 2 assists, and they came within 59 seconds of winning a game they had no business winning, and Buffalo came back, tied the game, and won it in overtime. That's the thing. It's like, Edmonton, they're at the top of that division by 1 point, but the last 10 to 15 games, it's all on the back of McDavid, and you cannot win. You cannot make a playoffs on the back of one guy, no matter how great he is.
Right, but that is the way you have success in the NHL. When your team struggles, the one guy carries you for a long enough time that when your team gets back to reality, it's assuming Edmonton's got talented players. When those players get back, you need McDavid to carry you through those down stretches and get you some points. And
if you look at the standings, if you take out the teams in the West and the teams that play in the South, other than Tampa, those are the strong teams in the league. That's right now. That's how it's sort of shaken out. So the Eastern race is going to be a killer.
The Eastern race is going to be very, very hard.
Tampa Bay is better than they've shown so far. One of the big things I would say with Tampa Bay, we look at their point totals and we go, oh, that's not the team we're used to.
Right.
They played the second fewest home games in the entire league thus far. They are a dominant home team as well.
Yeah.
They are one of these teams that 2 years ago they won, I think, 32 games at home. Last year they won about 25.
Yeah.
This is a team, they love playing in their building. Cooper knows how to take advantage of the matchups in his own building. So once they get some more home games under their belt, then I think we can get the true sort of judgment on what the Lightning are, especially without Stamkos right now.
Well, yeah, I think by the time like Florida gets good, they're going to have too many teams to leapfrog. I think that's going to be the problem.
The burden on Carey Price is going to get even heavier in Montreal because Desharnais was a sort of a borderline player, but he got injured yesterday, and Alex Galchenyuk right now is out indefinitely. They don't know how severe the injury is with him. Carey Price will have to carry that team on his back for the next month or so if Galchenyuk is out that long, because he's been their either him or Radulov has been their best forward, and unless you're going to win every game 1-0. It's just to me, it's too much of a burden on Carey Price.
Yeah. Well, I don't believe in the Ottawa Senators. I don't know about you guys. I still don't believe this, but we talk about this. We talk about this the season preview.
Yeah.
Every other year, whenever we pick them to be dead last, they're a playoff team.
I know.
Right? And I picked them for dead last because, and the thing is, what they're doing, Ty, is they're defying. Last year they were one of the highest scoring teams in the league, but they couldn't play defense. So this year they're buying in fully to Guy Boucher's program, and they're playing strapped down defensive hockey. But every time they open it up, they lose 8-5 like they do against Pittsburgh. So they can only play one way. They're going to play either 2-1 or lose by 5 goals.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And let's talk a little bit about the hit last night. Taylor Hall on Philip Larson. Philip Larson is out of the hospital. It's his birthday today.
I know, it's crazy.
But he got he's been discharged. He is medically cleared to return to the Canucks, so he's okay. I
want to ask something of our fans. If I'm ever taken off on a stretcher somewhere, don't cheer me. I'm not going to be. I don't want to hear cheers because I'm coming off the ice on a stretcher. That's the weirdest thing.
Russ, I was watching that game. The funny thing was when the Canucks players went to help the crew lift him off of the board onto the stretcher, the fans booed. But then when the stretcher went up and they were wheeling him up, then they cheered. It was
weird. Although Jacob Markstrom's a hero.
Right? Yeah, this game was obviously in Vancouver.
No, it was in New Jersey.
It was in Jersey.
It was in Newark. It was
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Yeah, of course it was in New Jersey. Yeah, that's why you're saying that. Yeah, I think it was actually kind of classy, Russ. I mean,
I don't want to be cheered when I'm on a stretcher. I don't. I just don't. I mean, am I supposed to do this fist in the air and then when I go off the ice say, "Oh man, get me to the hospital"?
I hear what you're saying, but I think it was also such a scary moment because he was really not moving. And
well, let's just say this: if it was Alex Burrows on the board and they were cheering, you would know the reason why it was going on.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't like a Michael Irvin moment or anything like that. They were completely So
I just think it's a weird custom. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And the first thing that came when I was scanning over quickly because I had family stuff all night last night, so I wasn't able to watch any of the games. When I was scanning through the news about this, I get to the point where, okay, Hall's taking out Larson. Immediately the first thing I thought of, oh wow, he's taking out the guy I got traded for. That's the first thing that went to my head that they were playing against, which would be crazy. If he had taken out, it's obviously a different Larson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that game had the potential of getting ugly because before that hit, and the thing was, I saw the replay of it. It didn't look like Hall was really meant to hurt Larson or hit him, and then the Department of Player Safety passed on any kind of hearing for him, so they saw the same thing. But before that, a Vancouver player had. I think it was high-sticked Travis Zajac, and he was out, I believe, for the rest of the game. And right after Larson had been taken off the ice on a stretcher, Eric Branson went after a couple of the New Jersey players. It looked like it could get a little bit out of control there, and but that it didn't end up happening.
But here's something players do need to watch out for. Like Jacob Markstrom was doing the right thing. He looked out for his player because people were almost kicking him in the head because they're trying to avenge him. But that's the same thing that happened in the Bertuzzi case, and I forget what was the player's name, Steve
Moore.
He probably got further injured by people who were trying to help him because he happened to be there laying prone on the ice. I wish players, when they see somebody laying prone on the ice like that, would just stop the nonsense. Markstrom did a great job by crowding around him and keeping players away from him. If he didn't do that, it could have been worse.
No, it could have been.
Yeah, and this is the second time I've noticed that. This happened too. I think it was in the playoffs with the Red Wings and the Blackhawks when I think it was, I want to say it was Kronwall or Franzen just destroyed
Kronwall. It had to be
I
Kronwall.
remember that. Yeah.
Marty Havlat along the walls there, and
Yeah.
Havlat hits the ice, and Havlat's he's out. He's totally out, and there's a huge brawl just happening right above him, and you're watching going, oh, please no one step on his face.
Right.
Please no one do this. It's a scary moment when it happens.
It is.
No, it's terrifying. I totally agree with you. I was, and you just worry about when the guy's not moving like that. I've been in arenas when that's happened, and it's just terrifying. I mean, usually players just get knocked out and they're okay, but you just never know. So you're in that spot where it's really you don't want to be in an arena when someone is, you don't want to see someone get hurt and get killed. It's just terrifying. I remember the fight. The most famous one I remember was a Rangers Flyers fight in Madison Square Garden. Who was it that the Rangers guy took? It was a Flyers player that got. Oh, it was Fedoruk. Todd Fedoruk got beaten up.
Yeah.
And he was laying just like that on the ice in Madison Square Garden. And I was, because the press box is lower down in Madison Square, and so it's pretty close to the ice. And I thought he was dead. Like, I really did.
Yeah, I covered that game too. I remember that one.
I was watching that, and I was like, someone's going to get killed. And I wrote stories after about it, about how we got to get rid of fighting. It was just because someone's going to get killed, right? So, that's just you hope they're okay. Before we get out today, I wanted to say, so we got to talk a little bit about Patrick Laine as well. Or the question is this: I'm hearing, does he pronounce his name Patrick Line?
No, Laine.
It's Laine.
Because he's on video. Someone showed me a video the other day of him saying, "Hi, I'm Patrick Line from the." So it's one of those things I'm totally confused about.
It's about how we pronounce it, not about how he pronounces it.
Yes, I mean,
How is that the case?
Because we're going to screw it up, and he has no say in it.
Well, is this another Cabrala type of thing? Is this like?
Yeah, I think it is. I think he pronounces his name Patrick Line.
Well, okay. All I know, there's a Leafs defenseman who's currently with their AHL team, and his last name is spelled Loov. We interviewed him in 2015 at the rookie tournament and asked him how you pronounce his name, and he said it's Victor Love, and it's spelled Loov. So we called him Victor Love, and of course it came out, calling Dr. Love and everything. Right. All of a sudden in about November or December, no, it's not Love, it's Louvre.
Yeah.
So I sometimes think they change it just because it's being used for colorful purposes or whatever. But we were saying Patrick Lane last year before the World Junior, and then it was clarified that it was Laine. So I'm sorry. even if he says, he comes out on TSN and says my name is pronounced Line, I'm pronouncing it Laine for the rest of his career.
All right, that's a really harsh thing to say there, Mike.
In defiance. I'm doing the same thing. Screw him.
I believe a player's name should be pronounced the way his mother would pronounce it, and I'm going to say his name is Patrick Line. We should call it Patrick Line. I think Laine is a cooler name. I'll throw that out there. It just has more. It rolls off the tongue more. Patrick Laine is.
Okay, so here's my argument about the Laine Calder thing. So I had this discussion last night, and I couldn't get any writer to disagree with me. Here's the thing. So I get that he's got 17 goals. He only has 8 assists. And we've all seen games where he's not completely engaged for the entire game. Austin Matthews has to go up against teams' best players, being the #1 center. Zach Werenski has to go up against Sidney Crosby and some of the best players in the league as a #1 defenseman. And he's got 17 points, not 25 points. Most people agree if Laine is going to win the Calder, he's going to have to get 15 or 20 points more than those two guys to do it. Because otherwise, there are other things that go on in this game now that definitely count, even in the Calder voting, where maybe 20 years ago they didn't even think about, putting those things in there. It usually was just points. Now, because we're more of a defensive league and there's more responsibilities and all of those other things, it seems like guys who vote are thinking about that a lot more now.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I mean, right now, it's very, very hard to sit back and say who the Calder is. I mean, Werenski's definitely gaining a lot of momentum. Like he's just because of what he's doing. And because who are your thoughts on the Calder, Ty?
For me, it's Werenski right now. I just think he's playing such a big role, and that team is really just stealing the show. I think in terms of like Austin Matthews, I think in line A, we sort of expected some production, especially given the teams they were going to. Winnipeg needed scoring on their wings. The Leafs really have never had a number one center since Sundin left, I think. Yep. So I think you sort of expect that production, if you will. I think, the Blue Jackets are a surprise, and Werenski's a surprise in terms of production. And I think one of the big reasons why the Blue Jackets are winning is because their defense, obviously their goaltender has been great, but I think their team defense has been really great for them. So I think you have to give serious consideration to him. Beyond that, there are some guys out there VZ had a hot start, but he's cooled down a bit, as do most college guys. So I think that's what makes Werenski so impressive right now. Yeah. Doubly so. So, I would give my vote to him right now, but, it's a long season. A lot of things can happen, so you never know. The NCAA guys, they tend to have a crash and burn sort of thing by the 50-game mark. That's when it sort of catches up to them.
Yeah, sure.
Seen it so many times now. So, but right now I'm giving it to the old Columbus defenseman.
Yeah, and I think Werenski right now would be leading for the Calder, but I would have Matthews ahead of Line A simply because Line A is playing with two veteran players on his line and has basically been told just go out and score, which is he's got the talent, he's got the ability, he should be given credit.
He has a +2. I don't want to take that away from him. It's not like he's a liability.
I know, but in terms of Matthews is playing with two rookies. And he is matching up at times against the other team's number one centers. And after that 13-game goalless streak, he scored in 4 of the last 5 games. And I think he has 11 goals now, and he's tied for the lead with the Leafs. So, Leaf fans cannot complain about what Austin Matthews is doing right now. He may not win the Calder, but I think they like what they're seeing right now.
Yeah, the lack of assists does hurt Line A little bit. It does.
Yeah, I think so too. As much as we want to talk about the Cowan buyout, I think it totally bores everybody to talk about it.
Let me
go explain what is happening for those of you who want to
make it exciting, Mike.
We want to go into sports law in the future.
The only thing I want to criticize here, because it was pretty much an open and shut case. It took 5 months. For the league. This is like the Dennis Weidman decision. It took 5 months for them to determine that the buyout was valid. And it was, so I'm not going to go through the whole details of it because it really isn't that exciting. But it took them, he was bought out in late June, just before the draft. It got rejected, and it went to arbitration, and it took 5 freaking months for the arbitrator to decide that the buyout was valid. And all it does for the Leafs right now is they get a credit on the salary cap, and they get one empty space in terms of a pro contract, which they'll probably use to sign Kari Ramo, the golden goaltender, in the next week or so.
So it's like getting a credit at Home Depot. Store credit. Fantastic.
Also, Calder vote. Matt Murray. I forgot about him. He's a rookie.
Yeah.
He hasn't played enough games yet, though.
He will.
He will,
and I'm with Ty. I think Matt Murray is one of the best goalies in the NHL right now. And
he's not in it yet, though. Fleury's played the last 3. I can't put him in it yet.
No, but the other thing I want to bring up about Werenski, if we do go to the Olympics next year, which is still possible, is Werenski on the blue line for Team USA? I think he's got to be.
For my team, he is, but I don't know. We've seen how these Olympic teams go. A lot of times they're skeptical in bringing someone that young on the blue line. So we'll see. I'm trying to think who's the youngest defenseman we've seen Team USA use in the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's a good
point. Or the last couple of Olympics, let's say.
In my head, I can't think of anybody.
McDonough was pretty young, right? What was McDonough? 23?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably the youngest. You've got 2 in Gostisbehere and him in Werenski. You've got 2 guys who are, going to.
I don't think Gostisbehere would make it. I'll be honest.
No.
Did Carlson make it when he was younger?
Yeah.
He might have been 22.
Because he's like a 90 or 91, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, maybe I don't know. It seems like they tend to, I thought. They tend to use these guys in the World Championships first, then they just see how they do and they go from there. But then sometimes that logic doesn't necessarily apply. I thought there were some guys that did a really great job for Team USA at the World Championships. They didn't even get an invite to the Team USA World Cup hockey camp. You know what I mean? Things like that. So I really don't know.
I think with the plethora of defensemen, I really don't think – I think Gostisbehere is on the outside looking in. I do. You're talking – Justin Falk may not even be on this list.
Yeah. I think that –
Gostisbehere falls into that Dustin Byfuglien offensive defenseman type of thing.
No, he does. He does. He's definitely on the bubble for sure. I mean, I would look at the World Cup of Hockey and see how good he was in that. I mean,
I know, but are you going to take like at the end of the day, you're going to the Olympics? Are you going to take Hanifin or him? Are you going to take like when you start breaking it down that way, you're going to still get offense out of these other guys. I would take Werenski over Gostisbehere tomorrow. Like
I would take Werenski over Gostisbehere for sure. But
Well,
I think that's. I mean, is Ekblad going?
Yeah, I think he's
In
going.
Canada?
Yeah.
You would hope that the U.S. would learn something from the World Cup, and that we have to move on from the Eric Johnsons and the Jack Johnsons.
Exactly. I mean, this is the U.S. The U.S. needs to just go young. You know,
Right, let's say I'll give you just three quick ones. You got McDonough, you got Hanifin, you got Werenski. You know, you got three more names. Is Gostisbehere really in the next three names in the league? I don't think so.
I have Gostisbehere over Hanifin.
Oh no, I don't know about that.
I do. I mean, I think because of the power play, what he brings to the power play. I mean, you need to have a strong power play, and
Shattenkirk,
Falk. Like there's so many guys.
They're good.
I'm so all set on Shattenkirk. I don't get it. I've watched these last year and a half, and I just see the trend. It's just going down. It's going down.
You know, here's the thing. He was an all-star 2 years ago. I don't think it's him. I think it's the Hitchcock system. I don't think it's him.
Yeah.
But Team USA didn't want him either. I mean, that was the crazy thing about it. You know, there's a lot of I mean, there's also, remember, there's all these dynamics, these weird dynamics that go on too. So that Team USA has never been high on Shattenkirk. Like, you know, that's just not, he's not their guy. It's like Oposto, you know, it's the same. These, for whatever reason, these players,
Byfuglien, Jacob Trouba. I mean, these are guys.
Yeah, I mean, Trouba doesn't make any sense at all. I mean,
all I know is I don't know who's running the Team USA. I do not want Dean Lombardi near Team USA.
Yeah,
please go away. Please
I do.
Go away.
Yeah,
it should be Ray Shero this time around.
Yeah, I think you know, I'd give it to Ray Shero for sure. I think he's earned it. I mean, he's done a great job, you know, in New Jersey, you know, putting together and go young, just go young, go for it. I mean, look at the power of Team North America in the World Cup of Hockey. Go young, you know, bring those players in, you know, put Austin Matthews on that team for sure. You know, he has to be. I mean, there's no question about it. Eichel's got to be on that team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, you got to go this way. You got to go for it. You have.
If we're in a situation where guys like Gaudreau, Eichel, Larkin, if they're passed up on for guys like Callahan
or Backus
and David Backus, like these older guys, these mid-30s guys, it's going to be another 6th, 7th place finish for Team USA.
Yeah, I don't want to see Kessler on the team. I don't want to. There's certain players I just don't. They're just not. They don't bring anything. They don't bring what you need. And bringing this.
You won't be able to blame Torts for the loss.
Right. But guys there are going to be some names that, regardless of their numbers, because of reputation, like TJ Oshie is going to make the team, whether you think he should or not.
No, he will make the team, and
he'll make the team.
I'm okay with Oshie because of the weird, stupid Olympic rules with shootouts. Like, you know, you need a guy like that in that situation. I'm okay with him, but there are players that I just.
But remember this from what happened in the World Cup. The weakest position for Team USA was up the middle, and if they go to the Olympics, arguably, and this is 2018 that we're talking about, arguably probably the top two centers are going to be Matthews and Eichel.
Right.
They'll be a little young, but that's
and adding Gaudreau to them is a huge one too. And you know,
I don't know Gaudreau will be on the team.
Yeah, but I'm talking about strictly up the middle. I mean, the overwhelming advantage for Team Canada is not only Crosby, but Tavares and Stamkos if they play, and Getzlaf and Carter and all. You know, you just keep loading the centers on, and if you have, you know, if you have Matthews and Eichel, and then you have the players that they had up the middle as third and fourth liners like Dubinsky. Okay, that third or fourth line, that's fine. Not first or second line. You cannot have those guys playing top 6 roles.
All right, Eck, here's another one. Are you taking Colton Parayko or Shane Gostisbehere?
Parayko.
Okay.
But I'm not. Yeah, I'm.
That's what I'm saying. But the list is narrow. He'll have a chance to make it. But this is a pretty good. There's a great grouping of young American defensemen, and then they probably will still take a veteran or two as well.
But I think they would. I wouldn't be shocked if they took Gostisbehere over Shattenkirk. Because just because of the history, and they do need a power play defense. They do need. I mean, is good. We go down that list of defensemen they have. They're good. McDonough's obviously a good power play defenseman, but they have solid power play defensemen, but not really like I take Gossier over Keith Yandel.
Well, remember, Team USA may learn something from Team Canada. Team Canada, they brought Bouwmeester and Peter Angelo, a defensive pairing that have played together with their own team. You could see Falk and Hannafin, because they play together at times with Carolina on their power play, sometimes regular shifts. Sometimes you could see them pick a pairing because they play together, and because you're throwing a team together with a couple weeks to put them together. The fact that they play together regular shift with their own club team is something that they may think of.
It's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Parayko is an absolute. He's one of the most underrated players in the NHL right now.
He's like practically silent as far as publicity.
Yeah, and how much money is he going to get as an RF?
Alex, it's a hard name to say. That's why.
I mean, it's he's why they're trading Shattenkirk, and he's why they're they're willing to move Shattenkirk, and he for that team in the World Cup of Hockey was phenomenal, and was maybe their best defenseman on the ice at times. So
not as hard as Patrick Lane.
No.
Line.
That's why Gostisbehere, he's lucky. He's got a nickname like Ghost. Everyone's like Gostis. Goosebumps. Yeah, that guy. No one knows what it is, so they just call him Ghost now instead.
Dustin Bufflin.
Yeah.
Well, there is, by the way, I'll leave you guys with this today. I'll show you. This is pretty fun. Speaking of Gostisbehere, there we have now let's see here, the Ghost Bear beer, which is
I don't see it.
Yeah.
You don't see anything?
It must be a
blackout night.
It must be a Bach beer. It's very dark.
Anyway, sorry.
It must be cloaking right now.
Look it up. It's brewed in Conshohocken, which is right around the corner from me. So Conshohocken is like literally a hop, skip, and a jump for me. If I'm a really good hop, skip, and jumper.
Although Conshohocken is a real pain in the neck to get to. It's one of those places you literally make a right off the Schuylkill, right? Yep. And then you're going up and down these massive hills. There's no place to park. I played softball there for a couple of years. It's a nightmare.
No, it's a nightmare, and it has like it's known for you put on the putting on the like bad things, like in terms of putting on the traffic report and say, the Conshohocken curve is backed up at the Conshohocken curve. It's all you hear is the Conshohocken curve. That's really what people think of when they think of Conshohocken. But anyway, there is a beer called Ghost Bear beer but
they do have a lot of good bars there. They really do.
And yeah, there are good bars there, really good bars. And Ghost Bear beer, which comes in an orange can with a picture of a big white bear on it, which is not directly correlated in any way to Gostisbehere, but obviously people are putting it together because of the orange can and the Ghost Bear actual thing. So anyway, there you have it. Conshohocken Brewing Company. Give it a try if you drink beer. I do not. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you soon. Tomorrow, perhaps. Yes, definitely. See you then.